right. Good morning, everyone. I hope your week is going well. It's just me today, and I am back to talk about homework some more because I didn't get it all off my chest with the first episode that I did about homework. Uh, we started the morning with my 4-year-old getting to school with no shoes. So, if that tells you at all what kind of mom I am. We are just not morning people in my family. I don't know why. We have tried very hard to turn into morning people and we just can't. We're like zombies in the morning. So this morning I was like, Charlie, where are your shoes? Because I had looked in the garage and her tennis shoes that she wears to school were not in the garage. And she was like, oh, they're in the car. I took them off in the car yesterday on the way home. I was like, okay, great. She actually does that quite commonly. So I believed her. Silly me, leaving the 4-year-old at 7 in the morning when we're all zombies. So we walk out to the car and she's in her socks. We get all the way to school. And of course, I open the door. Where are your shoes? I don't know. Nowhere to be found in the car are the tennis shoes. So I'm digging around in the trunk because thank God I am a hoarder. So usually there is just a bunch of crap thrown back in the trunk of my car. And the only shoes that we have are tap shoes. And of course, at her school, which I think at most schools, the dress code or rules are, kids have to wear tennis shoes. So they're not, falling all over the playground in flip flops and stuff like that. But tap shoes are not considered tennis shoes. So, anyways, we go into school. And I'm like, so sorry, teachers. We don't have tennis shoes today. Neither me or the 4-year-old are responsible enough to get it together to get the tennis shoes. So had to drop Mac off at school and then go to Target and get tennis shoes. Crisis averted. I actually am shocked that we've made it to this point in my motherhood career, and this is the first time I've had to go buy tennis shoes in the morning. So I'm actually kind of proud of myself for that. I'm sure it will happen many, many, many more times. So yeah, that's the kind of mom I am. Now switching directions into the homework conversation. I did an episode a couple weeks ago talking about whether or not kindergartners should be required to do homework. And I when I think about it, I get super annoyed and I feel like the family unit, especially in America and in the West, is under attack in so many directions. Like we're combating screens. We are combating this insane kids sports culture that we live in now, which is just wild. Everybody's got to play a million sports for their starting at 2 and 3 years old, which is just nuts. And then kids have to go to school for 8 hours a day. That's not new. That's been around for a long time. But the amount of time that they get for free play just keeps dwindling and dwindling away. You get 30 minutes for recess out of an 8-hour day. It just seems absolutely crazy to me. They're not outside, hardly any. They sit in these schools where they're under fluorescent lights, and the schools actually operate like more similarly to prisons than anything else. Like you have to be told when you can and cannot go to the bathroom. You have to be told when you can and cannot eat. This is the food that you are going to eat. You have not really a lot of choice in that. One thing I will say about my son's school, which I actually do appreciate a lot, is that in the lunchroom, they, even starting in kindergarten and with the little kids, they get to take their own trays through the line and they get to pick the food that they want to eat. And I think that's awesome. It's quite comical if you actually go eat lunch with them because half the kids are just eating like saltine crackers and a stack of cheese that's ridiculously big and nothing else. But I do appreciate that it is giving the kids some autonomy and a place in the day where they can make some choices on their own. A lot of them make terrible choices, but I mean, they're little kids. You still have to learn how to make choices on your own. You're not going to have somebody to dictate what you do and every choice you make your whole life. So it's good. I think that they do that. It's also good that they learn how to like serve themselves the food and get the food and try not to spill it on the floor. And if they do, they've got to clean it up and stuff like that. So I think that's a really good thing. I really like how they do that. But my point in that whole rabbit hole is that most of the day when kids are in school, they don't have a lot of autonomy or choices that they get to make on their own. They're told It's time to go to the next class. I don't care if you're in the middle of something and your focus and your train of thought is being broken. This period is over. We're moving on to the next subject, whether you like it or not. We dictate all these things to kids all day long. And then when they come home, and I am talking about kindergartners here, 5, 6-year-old kids, they are so little still. They come home, they might get a snack or something, they might have a few minutes to chill, and then we whisk them away to whatever the activity is. And some of the activities I'm sure the kids enjoy and they're good at. And I do think a lot of parents try to put their kids in things they think their kids are interested in, like whatever the sport may be. If it's a little girl, gymnastics, ballet. If it's a boy, football, baseball, whatever. I do think that parents try to do that. But I also think that a lot of parents are like, we're just going to stay busy to death. And I don't care if you like guitar or not, you're going to this stupid guitar lesson and you're going to sit there and enjoy the guitar because I paid $90 for you to sit there and do this guitar lesson. And then after that, tomorrow we're going to have baseball. And the day after that, we're going to have flag football. And it's just leaving no room for the kids to play and be kids like kids used to do. And that's very upsetting to me because I don't like it when people tell me what to do all the time. I hate being micromanaged. That's like one of my biggest pet peeves in life is when somebody tries to like micromanage me. Especially if they try to micromanage me when it's supposedly like my time or my off time. You get to micromanage them all day at school. Don't micromanage them when they go home. Nobody likes that. When you get home from your job in the day as an adult, you don't want to have to go home and then be micromanaged by your boss and do more work when you get home. You have worked all day long. Like you need time to rest. And home needs to be a place of rest and enjoyment and peace. And I think that that's just being eroded from every direction in our culture. And it really bothers me. So I would pose to these teachers that are giving homework to these little kids. Were you doing homework when you were 5 and 6 years old? Because I've asked a lot of people that are like in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Did life used to be this way? Was it this exhausting? Were we all this frazzled? Were we all this anxious? Is that how it used to be? And I just can't get it together. Like I just suck so bad at being a mom and a wife that I just can't get it together. And everybody says, no, it's not how life used to be. Life used to be much slower. Kids used to go play outside when they got home from school. That's what they would do. And they would stay outside until it was dark. And then their parents would yell for them to come home. And they would come home, begrudgingly because they were having fun outside with their friends, doing whatever they do. And one of my biggest joys, like being a parent and watching my kids get older, and I've noticed this in the last year with Mac, is he loves to go outside and play with the neighbor kids. And at first, I tried to micromanage him in that. I was like, well, I need to know what he's doing and whose house he's at and where they're going. And as I've gotten to know the children better and the parents better that he's playing with in the neighborhood, like I just don't worry about it as much. Like they go outside and I'm usually in the kitchen, like making dinner or doing something. And I'll come outside every 10 or 15 minutes to check on them out if they're in our yard. And they're usually like just doing kids stuff. They're like playing football or they're on the trampoline or they're down like chasing our chickens around, trying to catch the chickens. And there's tears sometimes, but rarely, they're all just like having fun, being kids. And I don't even really stress that much anymore about him like walking up and down the streets back and forth to the kid's house. Like I think I trust him that he'll get on the side of the road if a car is coming and stuff like that. And I know that he's got to learn to take the risk of learning how to walk up and down the street, even around corners and up and down hills where cars are going to have blind spots. Like he needs to learn, like you got to stay out of the way and stuff like that. And so I've seen him find immense enjoyment in playing with these older kids, especially like the boys. They are nice enough to like play football and they won't play it for hours, but they will like throw with him until they decide they've moved on to whatever the next activity is. But they make up these games Like the other day, they were all jumping on the trampoline, and one kid was standing off the trampoline, like throwing the balls to whoever was jumping the highest. And it was just like nice to see kids playing outside, like having fun. The older kids are playing with the younger kids. Like it just made my heart happy. And then we had to go to tennis. So that was like short lived. Um, so when I go back to the homework thing, I've been thinking a lot about why teachers feel the need to send this home to younger and younger kids. And I truly believe that the teachers have good intentions. Like, I think they want the kids to learn. I think they want to be good at their jobs. Like, I don't think that they are thinking, oh my gosh, I'm ruining this family's night because it's taking away all the free time. I don't think that those thoughts are going through their head when they're doing these assignments. I think part of it is the administration. The administration thinks parents want and expect more and more and more, which is true. Parents have put all this pressure on these schools to raise kids, and it is not just the school's job to raise kids. Parents have to raise their kids too. And so that's a indictment on parents, not on the schools. But I don't think that the schools need to give in to the pressure from these parents and say, all right, well, we're just going to give more and more and more and require more and more and more. First of all, I think there are a lot of parents like me that don't want the homework coming home because they realize that it's taking away time from their family. It's taking away the few precious hours of leisure time that our kids have at night. And it's like making the home a stressful place when it's supposed to be peaceful. Even, like, I've listened to Kim Kardashian, which, I don't agree with her on hardly anything that she does in life. I do think she's entertaining, sometimes I enjoy her fashion, but, like, as far as parenting and how she's lived her life, I don't agree with hardly any of it. She was saying that her kids should not be doing homework, and she was talking about older kids. Her kids are, like, 9, 10, 11, 12. She was saying they play sports, they enjoy playing sports, that they don't have any time. The exact same things that I'm saying, and I'm like, "Good grief, if me and Kim Kardashian can agree on this, then, I think there's a lot of people that feel this way." So I did a quick little chat GPT search about what kindergarten looked like in the 60s, because I don't feel like that's that long ago in history. I feel like people in our country were doing better back then. It didn't seem that to be that there was all this anxiety and depression and ADHD, all these things that we were dealing with back then or now didn't seem to be in existence back then. And I do recognize that people remember things more fondly than they actually were, but I also believe the people that I talk to, the older people that I talk to, that they truly weren't as stressed as we are now. So I'm just going to read what ChatGPT has to say about this. Says kindergarten in the 1960s looked very different from today. There were no nationally standardized academic benchmarks like we have now. Example, Common Core. Instead, expectations were shaped by local school districts and heavily influenced by early childhood philosophy, especially play based and developmental learning. Here's what standards typically looked like in practice: focus, social and emotional development. Kindergarten was primarily about helping children adjust to school, learning to follow directions, taking turns in sharing, developing independence, managing belongings, using the restroom, participating in group activities. I'm going to stop there for a minute. The experience that I have had is that list of expectations that they laid out right there, participating in group activities, developing independence, taking turns in sharing, learning to follow directions. Schools want and expect kids to have all of those skills coming into kindergarten now. So they want them to be taught those skills and to learn those skills in preschool and even before that, like in daycare. That's absurd. These kids are like 4 years old. To expect children to come into kindergarten with all those skills, why? What is wrong with letting them learn those things in kindergarten like they used to? I was even talking to my aunt. She lives in Indiana, and in Indiana, kindergarten for one is optional, which I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I just live in the wrong state. I need to go up there with the Midwestern farmers, and I see things more their way, I guess. Also, kindergarten has half day options because they still see them as 5-year olds. And so I also feel like a lot of schools, they expect kids to come into kindergarten with all these skill sets, not just what I just listed, like the participating in group activities, how to stand in line, like all that kind of stuff. They want them to know all of their letters. They want them to know like numbers up to 50. They want them to be able to write their name. A lot of them want them to be like starting to read already. And I'm like, why in the world is this pressure getting put on kids at younger and younger and younger ages? People from the 60s learned how to read at acceptable ages, and they didn't come into kindergarten knowing how to read. So I don't understand why parents and schools feel the need for kids to grow up sooner and sooner and sooner. Like, you get your whole life to be an adult. You only get a very, very small window of time to be a child and to enjoy childhood. Like, why are we taking that from them? I don't get it. Let them be kids. Good Lord. Like, you get to have responsibilities your whole life. Give them 5 years of not having that. Let them play. It's not hard. Okay, moving on to the next thing that old ChatGPT had to say. Early academic exposure, not mastery. Academic skills were introduced gently, not required at specific levels. Alphabet recognition, not necessarily full reading. Basic counting, often to 10 or 20. Recognizing colors, shapes, and simple patterns. And listening to stories rather than reading independently. So, it's kind of what I was just talking about. Those things were done starting in kindergarten, not before. At home with my kids, we do work on those things, but it is not in a school format. So, like, I'll give an example. We love to go on walks in our neighborhood, and how my kids have learned their numbers is because we stop at the mailboxes and we like do quiz each other on the addresses on the mailboxes. Well, that's not like school. That's just like scooter, 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 stop, practice 5 or 4 numbers, scooter, 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 do it again. And if somebody doesn't want to do it, we just stop doing it. But my kids have all learned their numbers that way. And it's not pressure, it's not homework. We're not walking around with a workbook filling it out. We're like enjoying our day, just talking about stuff as we go along on the walk. So I don't understand why we expect these kids to come in knowing all this stuff instead of just letting them play and learn it naturally like you would. Another way that my kids have learned how to count is we just count steps, like when we're going up and down steps 1, 2, 3, 4. So, I mean, of course, they could only count to like 11 or whatever because we don't have like 50 steps in a row. But they don't need to be able to count to 50 entering kindergarten. Um, and obviously, if you're with your kids and you're reading to them and you're outside, like recognizing shapes and patterns and stuff like that, you just talk about it. Like, we're at the playground. Like, what's that big round thing? Oh, it's a circle. But you're not sitting down looking at a textbook, like, show me a circle, show me a triangle. Like, you're just learning it naturally in play. Okay, next part. Formal reading instruction was often minimal or even discouraged in some programs. Next part, play based learning. A large portion of the day was devoted to free play. That means blocks, dolls, pretend play, art, painting, cutting, pasting, music and development, outdoor play, and recess. The belief was that children learn best through exploration and play, not structured academics. Amen. Say it again, ChatGPT, for those in the back that couldn't hear. Kids need to explore and play. They have got their entire school career to do formal academic learning. Also, I think we're putting way too much pressure on kids to read at a very young age. My son Mac, he is 6 now. He can read. He started reading when he was 5. Um, and that was good. I was really proud of him. Thought it was great. But there are a lot of kids that don't actually learn how to read. Like they're not their brains are not ready to read until they are like 7 and 8 years old. And there's actually a ton of research on this now showing that if the ear is not fully developed, that the kids are not actually their brain is not firing where it's ready for them to be reading. Well, a lot of kids, their ears don't develop until later, and especially kids that have issues with tubes and ear infections and stuff like that. And we have put this blanket standard that all kids need to be reading at 5 now, and that's wrong. It's your kid is not dumb if they're not reading at 5 years old. That's not the case. Actually, back it like this is saying in the 60s, a lot of kids in kindergarten were read to. They weren't being forced to read the whole time. And even with Mac now, he's 6 years old and he can read pretty well at night when we read together. I'm like, "Hey, buddy, do you want me to read to you or do you wanna read to me?" And it's about 50-50. Sometimes he is so tired and he just wants me to read him a story, and I am happy to read him a story because I just want him to relax and I want him to enjoy and love reading. I don't want him to hate it. I don't wanna, like, beat it into him at such a young age. But half the time, it's a book that, like, he's like, "Oh, I wanna read this one." And sometimes he's picking, like, challenging books that I don't know if they're above his reading level or not. I think they probably are. Like, he's been wanting to start reading the Bernstein Bears books, and those have some pretty large words in them. And he'll probably read like maybe the first 2 or 3 pages because it's large paragraphs and long words. And then he'll get tired of it and he's like, okay, can you do the next page? And so we're just alternating. Like, I don't think we should be forcing them to do all the reading on their own in kindergarten. Like, being read to is still a really good thing. And it's a good way for you to like bond with your kids. That is part of my favorite time of each day that I have with my kids because nobody's stressed, nobody's yelling at each other. Reading is teaching you something, you're learning about something, or it could just be like an entertaining book. It doesn't have to be like we're learning facts or something like that, but we're just laying there peacefully together. There's no altercation. And I'm trying to get better at this. I used to get so annoyed when my kids would like interrupt me all the time because they had questions about what I was reading. But now I'm like, let them ask the questions. They've been told to shut up the entire day and listen and pay attention in school. Like, if they don't ask the question right then and there when we're reading it, their train of thought can be really short. They're tired at the end of the day. Like, let them ask it. If they've got a question about whatever I'm talking about or a comment in the book, like, I just let them say it. And I try not to get annoyed, and it takes me twice as long to read the book. And that's okay. And that's also how they like communicate to me what they're learning and what they are picking up from the book and what's interesting to them. And so, like, if I actually listen to their questions and don't just brush it off and get annoyed by them, I learn a lot about what's happening in their mind and what's important to them. All right. Next part, what old chat GPT has to say. Fine and gross motor skills. Activities were designed to build physical coordination using scissors, crayons, and glue. Drawing and basic writing, often just their name. Climbing, running, and other physical play. Um, I think that they're still like doing the scissors and crayons and glue, and they're definitely doing the drawing and writing. In kindergarten, it's not just basic writing. Like, they are writing like sentences and learning punctuation and stuff like that. So that seems to me to be being pushed down at a younger and younger age too. But then it says for fine and gross motor skills, climbing, running, other physical play. Let's just think about it. This is very simple in my mind. If you need to learn gross motor skills and fine motor skills, you need to be doing small and large activities. So if you're learning the fine motor skills from using scissors and crayons and drawing and that kind of stuff, that's all well and good. But if you only get 30 minutes of recess and 30 minutes of PE, and PE is not free play, they're being dictated, told like what they're going to do, what games they're going to play. Um, That's a 1 hour a day of being able to, like, jump and run and swing and do monkey bars, and, like, that kind of stuff is actually very important for kids to do monkey bars, like, it makes you cross both sides of your brain. Really important for kids to do those kinda things. It's also really important for kids to spin around, like, when they're on a tire swing or on some sort of rope or rolling down a hill. It develops the vestibular sense, which is majorly important in life for balance and so many other things. Well, if you're spending all your time just cutting and coloring and gluing, not developing the other skills that you need, that especially little boys need, you're gonna have ADHD. Shocker. Everybody's gonna be on Adderall and Ritalin. And we wonder why these kids, like, are having so many issues because we are penalizing them for what their body is trying to and needs to learn. Okay. Oh, this is good. I didn't even remember reading this part. Half day programs. Most kindergarten programs were half day only, not always mandatory. Kindergarten attendance wasn't universal yet. Um, Amen. I don't know why we can't go back to that. I obviously understand that most parents are working now, and so you don't have a lot of stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home dads that could take care of kids. Like, a lot of people need the school for childcare, and that's not the school's fault. I'm not mad at that at all. I do wish there was a half-day option, though. My daughter, she is, 4, and she goes from 8, except we're late every day because I usually take Mac to school first, so she usually goes from, like, 8:15 or 8:30 until 1:30, and she only goes 3 days a week, and it seems like the perfect amount of time because what is really nice about her school, for me, I am not, like, an artistic, creative person. I don't really enjoy painting, I don't enjoy coloring, I don't enjoy, like, bead making, those kinda things. They don't do it for me. But her teacher is extraordinarily gifted at those things, and my daughter does enjoy doing those things, and so she gets to go and do that for a couple hours a day. That's a huge focus. They also are extremely play-based with the little kids, and so they spend most of the day outside and then the rest of the day, like, inside doing art and stuff like that, and it's perfect, like, perfect for her, and it's perfect for me because I get her on the whole day Monday, the whole day Friday, and then pick her up at 1:30 on the rest of the days of the week. So I think that, like, that is how kindergarten would ideally be structured. And kindergarten, I mean, like, 5-year-olds. Um, Instead of, like, I feel like we're treating kindergartners like they're in 2nd or 3rd grade, which some kids can handle. Some kids are, like, extremely gifted and smart and ahead of everybody else, but a lot of them are just like normal kids, and they're not ready for all this rigor that's being pushed on them at a younger and younger age. Okay. The influencing philosophy. The approach was rooted in Frederick Frobel, I probably butchered that name, Frobel's kindergarten model, learning through play. Early childhood development research emphasizing readiness over rigor. Wow. I just needed to be around in the 60s and live in Indiana. That's my issue here. I was born in the wrong decade. Actually, I think that maybe I should have been around before that, like, I really would have liked the agrarian lifestyle, but when refrigerators and washing machines were coming onto the scene, I think I would have, really thrived in that time period. Okay, big difference versus today. Compared to today's standards, 1960s kindergarten had no formal testing or strict benchmarks, rarely expected kids to read or do structured math, prioritized social development over academics. Okay. So that's just a short synopsis about how things are so different now, versus how they were in the 60s, which is not that long ago. And my question to people that grew up in the different learning period was, do you wish you would have had homework in kindergarten? Did they really screw your life up and take away from you by not giving you kindergarten homework? I guess it's going to be no, but I could be wrong. Also, I have been reading this excellent book called Dopamine Kids, and it is by Michaeline Doucleff. She wrote the book called Hunt, Gather, Parent, which is one of the best parenting books that I've ever read. And basically, I'm only halfway through the book, but it was just talking about how we are all so addicted to this dopamine stuff, whether that be through screens or processed foods, and how it's a real problem in our society and for not only our kids, but for us too, which I can relate to so much. But the chapter of the book that I was listening to this morning, after the whole shoe debacle when I was driving home, was talking about how kids really need to create and build. And there are two different styles of kids, or I guess you could say minds, how they work. There are beavers, they called squirrely beavers, and they are like the ones that want to be swinging axes and hammers, and they love knives, and they love rough and tumble play, and they are using big muscles in their bodies and movements. And then there are, good grief, I just forgot the name of the bird. Um, it's some type of bird. I'll find it out and get back to you on that. Anyways, they are the people that are way more attention to detail. They're intricate. The type of building and creating that they're doing is, like, smaller, like sewing sequins on a shirt or knitting or, building, like, a model plane or something like that. And, those type of birds versus the beavers are just 2 different personality, brain types, and there are some that cross over, but she said for the most part, it's, you're either in one camp or the other. And I have not finished her chapter on this yet. I'm just gonna talk about the first part that I listened to that I feel like applies to my homework dilemma or my homework complaints right now. Um, I personally am the beaver type. I like to be digging in the garden. I would be the one swinging the axe. I like tools. That is how my brain works. Both of my sons are that exact mindset too. My daughter, on the other hand, she actually likes creating like the small, little, dainty, attention to detail kind of things. And I feel like that's one reason why it's so hard for me to parent her is because I don't think that way. So I just don't like see the world the same way as she does. And with my sons, I think it's also why I am super protective of them is because I understand how they feel because I do think the way that they feel. And I just feel like schools are way more geared towards the bird type, the fine motor skills, the attention to detail, the kids that are, doing small things with their hands, that kind of stuff, versus the ones that are like, "Give me a hammer, give me the pruning shears that are this long, I wanna go chop off every branch off the tree." So I first of all, I believe that a lot more and what she talks about in the book is a lot more boys are typically the beaver type and a lot more girls are the bird type, which makes sense. Like, if you look at life, that makes total sense to me. She said, however, it doesn't mean that that's how it always is. They cross, which is true because I am what would typically be the bird. I'm like the beaver. Um, so when you have children that are the bird types and they are really good at sitting down and coloring, they are good at working on worksheets, they are good at stuff like that. School is a place where they probably are going to thrive and they are in their natural element. That's what they enjoy doing. They're good at it. If you have a rowdy boy like I have, or me, a rowdy mom, that's what I am. Um, School is a place where we just feel like somebody's like got their thumb on us and they want to control us and they don't want us to go cut down a tree and they don't want us to go dig in the garden. They don't want us to play in the dirt. And school feels like almost an a personal attack on how God made us, if that makes any sense. So that's why homeschooling was probably a really good thing for me, because I didn't have to learn within the constraints that school typically has. And I know that people think they're like, "Oh my God, Liz, why won't you just shut up about the homework or the summer packet or stuff like that?" And here's the conclusion that I've come to. Those people are probably the bird types. They are good at that kind of stuff. They enjoy that kind of stuff. I am the beaver type. I am not good at that kind of stuff. I can't think of anything else that like just frustrates me more than having to do that for 8 hours a day. And then you say, "Oh, you got free time at night." Oh no, go do that stuff you don't like doing the rest of the day too. And I see that as being harmful to my beaver boys. They need to go outside and play, and they need to tackle each other in football, and they need to chase the chickens around, and they need to cut things down and dig things up and make messes and whittle and use knives to like cut apples for dinner or whatever. And when you say, no, you're going to do these bird activities, these intricate, detailed things, it's frustrating. And it doesn't come naturally, and it's not a joyful thing. So I'm thinking about it even further. I have not gotten this from her book, so I'm not stating this about Michaeline Ducliffe at all. I have this theory that the people that go into teaching, for the most part, and there would be exceptions to this, but for the most part, are the people that think like the bird type. They actually like doing the worksheets. They enjoy coloring. They really like the small details and creating things that way and thinking and building in that format. Um, which makes sense. Like if they were good at school, then they want to teach and go into it. Like it makes total sense to me. Me, I could never be a teacher in a million years because I don't enjoy that. I don't think that way. I would snap on these kids all the time. I would be losing my patience because I'm getting frustrated about these small, intricate details, and I wouldn't be good at it. I do think that the exception would be where you see teachers that are like PE or gym teachers or coaches. Like those are probably your beaver type people that like, you know, using the big muscles in their body and like moving around and stuff. So that's probably the exception that I would see. Um, but then it makes sense to me why the teachers, if they have that personality type, wouldn't see any issue or problem with sending homework home to little kids because they're good at it. They enjoy it. They probably see it as we are keeping these kids off of screens, which, yes, I 100% agree with. They need to be off the screens. But they also see it as they get a chance to hone and master these skills that we've been teaching them all day long for 8 hours. But if you enjoy it, then it doesn't seem like work. But if you don't enjoy it, and that's not how you learn and how you create, my question would be, could you see how it would be incredibly frustrating to somebody that's like a beaver type like me or my sons, and how we need an outlet to be outside using our hands in the sunshine, not being constrained to a room, sitting at a table with a pencil and a piece of paper. So I think it's like a communication breakdown in personality types. And I feel like the majority of the people, the personalities that are leading and running schools are that bird type of personality because that's where they thrive. And the rest of us just get stuck on Adderall or they beat it out of us. And that's sad to me because my sons, they really, really, really like enjoy going in the woods and chopping things down and stuff like that. And the world needs those people. I know it seems like we don't as we've moved it more towards, a technology based society. But you need plumbers, you need contractors, you need people to build things, you need people to fix things, you need people to demolish things. Like I think about it all the time. Both of my sons when they were little, their favorite book was Little Excavator. It's like, here come the big rigs rolling down the street. Thump a thump a bump a bump a beep beep beep. And the whole book is about just like all these different equipment pieces, like excavators, dump trucks, um, all those things that little boys love. And I could never understand, like, why are they so obsessed with this book? Well, we go to Lakeshore Park like 3 or 4 times a week now, and they are doing construction up at the top of the hill. Denark, this company has, all this big construction equipment, like a huge excavator and a big bobcat and a bulldozer. And my son, after we play on the playground, which is like his favorite thing, he loves it. He does the slides, he's jumping, things little kids do on the playground. He just wants to go sit up there and watch the construction equipment. And I'm like, it's so clear. It's because he's a beaver. Like, he just thinks that that is the coolest thing. It's an amazing way to create. That's how God has wired his brain. It's not a bad thing. And it is sad to me that our society has made it seem like those jobs are less than in some way. Like, Cooper, not only does he love watching the excavators and the bulldozers, he loves the garbage trucks. It's like his favorite thing. We just went to Miami for spring break, stayed in a nice hotel, and his favorite part of the whole trip was we could look down from our balcony, and every day he could see this massive garbage truck come and like take the garbage away. He'd start screaming, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, the garbage truck," and we make it seem like that job is not as important as the guy who's like up on his laptop making deals at a hedge fund. But that guy is just as important in making society run. His skills are just different. So, anyways, I beg of you, please, if you're going to send home homework, which I don't think you should, period, for kindergartners, I just don't think there is any room for that after they've been at school for 8 hours. But if you do, please make it optional so that you don't just like take the life out of us beavers. Let us have time to go outside and create and dig and destroy. We need it really badly. I beg of you, please make it optional. All right, that's all I've got for today. I hope you have a fantastic week.